My husband left me in the car while I was in labor and ran off on a trip with his mistress. Hours later, he called me desperate, saying that I smiled and ignored him. The night was heavy, with dark clouds blanketing the sky and the silence broken only by the distant sound of thunder. Olivia gripped the car seat upholstery tightly, panting. The contractions came in waves, each one more intense, like sharp jabs in her belly. "James, please, Taj," she begged, her voice weak but laden with desperation. "It's time. I need to go to the hospital now." James, however, leaned against the car door, his phone in hand, typing messages with a smile Olivia knew all too well. It was the same smile he wore when hiding something, when he believed he was in control. "You're always so dramatic, Olivia," he scoffed, his gaze sliding from his phone to her with disdain. "You can wait a little longer. I have an important appointment." Olivia grabbed his arm, her nails digging into his skin in one last desperate plea. "James, I'm telling you, the baby is coming. I can't wait any longer." The pain was nearly unbearable, tears streaming down her face. He yanked his arm away with a brusque motion, adjusting his expensive watch as if it were more significant than her agony. "I don't have time for this right now, Olivia. You're so over the top," he laughed, that hollow laugh that made her heart sink. "Hang in there a bit longer. I'll be right back." Before she could say another word, he walked away, leaving her alone in the car parked outside their house. The taillights of his sports car glowed briefly before disappearing around the corner, taking with them any hope that he might come back. Olivia felt the air leave her lungs. It wasn't just the physical pain crushing her in that moment, but the overwhelming sense of abandonment. She was alone, pregnant, about to give birth, and the man who had promised to stand by her side had left her as if she meant nothing. She tried to take a deep breath, but her sobs came out like choked cries. Her hands trembled as she searched for her phone in her bag. "You can do this, Olivia," she thought, trying to summon her strength. When she finally found the phone, her shaky fingers dialed the emergency number. As she waited for someone to answer, the phone slipped from her sweaty hands, falling to the car floor. She sobbed in pain and humiliation. The loneliness of that moment felt like a perfect reflection of how she felt inside, lost, empty, invisible. Then, a thought struck her like lightning. "He doesn't know that I know, but that's going to change." A flicker of determination shone through her tears, even as the next contraction made her scream in pain. James's abandonment had left a deep wound, but it had also awakened something he could never have imagined, a strength he had never seen in her. Sitting in that cold, empty car, Olivia vowed this would be the last time he ever made her feel powerless. The next morning arrived, sunlight streaming into Olivia's house, but the light brought no comfort. She sat in the living room chair, holding a thick envelope with steady hands. Inside were months of investigation, photos, emails, messages. Undeniable proof of James's betrayal and double life. She didn't need anything else. "You thought I'd never find out, didn't you, James?" she muttered to herself, staring at a photo of him embracing Luna at an expensive restaurant, the same one where weeks ago he had claimed to have a work meeting. The doorbell interrupted her thoughts. Olivia stood, carefully placing the papers back in the envelope before opening the door. Standing there was Henry, her lawyer and a longtime friend, with an expression that mixed concern and determination. "Are you sure you want to go through with this now, Olivia?" Henry asked as he stepped inside, studying the resolute expression on her face. "Yes, Henry, I've waited long enough." He laughed at me while I begged for help in that car. He laughed. "It ends today," Olivia replied, her voice carrying a cold calmness that Henry had never seen in her before. Henry placed his briefcase on the table, pulling out a stack of documents. He knew James well, understood the man was a calculated strategist, but he also knew James had underestimated Olivia, and that would be his greatest mistake. "I reviewed everything you sent me," Henry began, handing her the papers. The prenuptial agreement, the financial records, even the transfers he made to his mistress's account. He left a trail, Olivia, a pathetic one. She took the papers, studying them with sharp, calculating eyes. "So is it possible?" she asked, not looking up. "More than possible. If we take this to court, you'll be entitled to the majority of the assets. He used joint funds to support that woman, and we can prove it." Olivia exhaled, not with relief, but with resolve. This was it. There was no turning back. "Good. I want him to see that I know. I want him to feel the ground disappear beneath his feet, just like he did to me last night." Henry nodded, impressed by her determination. "Then let's start now." At that very moment, James was sitting at an upscale cafe, the same one he frequented with Luna. savoring an espresso while checking the balance of his bank accounts on his phone. His lips curled into a smug smile as he saw the numbers, a constant reminder of the luxury he so adored. Unstoppable, he thought to himself. The chime of a notification interrupted his musings. He opened the banking app, but instead of his usual millions, the screen displayed something alarming: insufficient funds. What the hell is this? He muttered, furrowing his brow as he frantically pressed buttons on his phone, refreshing the page as if it were a glitch, but the number remained the same. Luna, sitting across from him, leaned forward, concerned. "James, what's going on?" He glanced up at her, irritated but without an answer. His hands trembled slightly as he dialed his bank manager. "Yes, it's me. What's happening with my account? My balance is gone." On the other end of the line, the manager's voice was cautious. "Mr. James, your wife, Olivia, submitted legal documents transferring most of your assets to her. It's all legitimate. There was nothing we could do." James felt as though the ground had vanished beneath him. "What? That's impossible. She can't. There's no way she could." He froze, his eyes widening as a wave of panic swept over him. Luna leaned in further, whispering, "James, what is he talking about? What did Olivia do?" He ignored her, ending the call with a loud slam on the table that made the coffee cup tremble. People around him shot curious glances his way, but he didn't care. There's no way she could have known. "No way," he muttered to himself, the words escaping in a muffled tone of denial. Suddenly his phone vibrated again. It was Olivia. He answered immediately, unable to hide the anger in his voice. "What did you do, Olivia?" On the other end of the line, her voice was calm, almost sweet, which only irritated him more. "Oh, you figured it out already. I thought it would take you longer, considering how busy you've been lately. Terati, you had no right. That fortune is mine. You can't just—" She cut him off, her tone hardening. "Yours? James? Everything you have was built with my support while you lied, cheated, and humiliated me. You thought you could leave me in that car laughing and there wouldn't be consequences? Well, surprised there are." James fell silent, swallowing hard. For the first time, he felt like he was facing someone he couldn't manipulate. "Olivia, we can talk. It doesn't have to be like this. We can work this out." He tried to soften his tone, but the desperation in his voice was unmistakable. "Work it out. The way you worked things out with Luna. The way you left me alone during the most vulnerable moment of my life. No, James. Now it's your turn to deal with the consequences. Good luck." Before he could respond, Olivia hung up. James remained there, phone still in hand, its dark screen reflecting his pale face. Luna, still unsure of what was happening, reached out and touched his arm. "James, what's going to happen now?" He pushed her away brusquely, not even looking at her. Everything around him seemed to be crumbling, and for the first time, the arrogance that defined him was replaced by paralyzing fear. The man who thought he had the world at his feet realized, far too late, that control was no longer in his hands. Meanwhile, Olivia sat in the quiet of her living room, now serene and still. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air, but she barely noticed. Her mind raced through everything that had happened, the void James had left, and the wounds he had caused. The sound of the doorbell pulled her out of her thoughts. Who could it be now? She murmured to herself, rising slowly and adjusting her robe. When she opened the door, she saw Camilla, her best friend since childhood, holding a bag of pastries and wearing a warm smile. "Look who needs a hearty breakfast," Camilla said as she stepped inside without hesitation, placing the bag on the table. "Camilla, I didn't ask for anything." "You never ask, but I know when you need it." Olivia felt a lump form in her throat. She sat back down, and Camilla pulled up a chair beside her, holding her hands. "You're not alone in this, Olivia. You never have been. James may have thought you were weak, but I know who you are. And now, everyone else will know too." Before Olivia could respond, another knock came at the door. This time it was her cousin Evelyn with her young children in tow. The kids ran to hug Olivia, laughing and playing, bringing a lightness she hadn't felt in a long time. "We came to bring a little noise to this too-quiet house," Evelyn joked, handing over a small cake she'd brought. "And of course, to talk about the next steps." Olivia laughed for the first time in days, though hesitantly. "Next steps? I don't even know how I got this far, Evelyn." Camilla chimed in. "You got here because you're strong, and you'll keep going because you're not alone. Now tell us, what can we do for you?" As the kids played in the backyard, Olivia looked at the two women in front of her, feeling the weight begin to lift, but the support didn't stop there. Later that day, Henry returned, this time without any documents, just a bottle of wine and a warm smile. I told you I'm by your side, Olivia, and not just as your lawyer. He placed the bottle on the table. You don't have to solve everything today. Let's toast to what you've already accomplished. With a surprised look, Olivia accepted the glass Henry poured, while Camilla burst into laughter. That's the spirit. Finally, something to celebrate. By nightfall, the house was full. Evelyn had prepared an impromptu dinner. The kids were asleep on the couch, and Henry and Camilla helped Olivia organize the next steps in her new life. Sitting at the table, surrounded by people who loved her, Olivia felt something that had seemed distant for so long. Hope. Even in the storm James had caused, she wasn't alone, and with each gesture of support, each encouraging word, each genuine hug, she knew she would not just survive, she would thrive. As everyone laughed at one of Camilla's jokes, Olivia glanced out the window at the now clear and starry sky. For the first time in a long while, she saw a future where starting over was possible, filled with strength and love. The morning light flooded Olivia's bedroom, bathing everything in golden hues. She sat in a chair by the window, gazing at the crib she had assembled on her own a few weeks earlier. Her baby slept peacefully, his breathing soft and rhythmic. For the first time, Olivia felt that the chaos that had once ravaged her life was finally giving way to something new, something good. The phone rang, breaking the quiet calm. It was Henry. "Olivia, it's Henry. Are you ready to sign the papers today?" She took a deep breath, the sound of a pen scratching paper already echoing in her mind. "Yes, Henry, I'm more than ready. This needs to end." After hanging up, Olivia headed to the kitchen, where Camilla was brewing coffee. Since everything had happened, Camilla had spent more time there, making sure Olivia didn't feel alone. "Today's the big day, huh?" Camilla remarked, handing Olivia a cup of coffee. "Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm nervous or relieved. Maybe both." Camilla smiled, sitting down beside her. "Olivia, listen. You've already been through the hardest part. Today is just the end of a chapter, not the end of your story." Olivia nodded, but before she could respond, Evelyn came through the front door holding an envelope. "I brought something I think you'll want to see," she said, handing it over. When Olivia opened it, she found a letter from a support group for women who had gone through similar situations. It was an invitation to give a talk and share her story. "They think my story can inspire other women. Evelyn, I barely know how I made it this far." "Exactly, Olivia. You did make it this far. That alone is inspiring." After finishing her coffee, Olivia got ready and headed to Henry's office. Sitting in the meeting room, she stared at the papers that would officially sever her ties with James forever. With a steady hand, she signed each page, feeling the weight lift from her shoulders with every stroke. "That's it," Henry said with a smile. "You're free now." Later, back home, Olivia picked up her baby, holding him close as though she were looking at a miracle. "You know, my love," she said softly, "things won't always be easy, but I promise I'll do everything to give you a life full of love and security. Because now, this is our beginning." Camilla and Evelyn walked into the living room, carrying balloons and a small cake. "Surprise!" they shouted, making Olivia laugh. "What's this?" "A celebration. For you, your freedom, and the bright future you're going to build," Camilla replied, as Evelyn nodded in agreement. As she cut the cake, Olivia felt something new, a sense of lightness and peace. She was no longer the woman who had been abandoned and betrayed. She was a woman who had chosen to start over, with courage, love, and hope. And as the sun set, painting the sky in hues of orange and gold, Olivia felt for the first time in a long while that everything was going to be okay. The afternoon was quiet in Olivia's new home, a simple house, but one full of life. The soft sound of the breeze filtered through the white curtains in the living room as she played on the floor with her son, now a few months old. His laughter filled the space, making it impossible not to smile along. The trauma from before seemed so distant, as though it had happened in another lifetime. A knock at the door interrupted the moment. Olivia stood up, holding her baby in her arms, and went to answer it. It was Camilla, carrying a plant in a ceramic pot. "I thought this little plant would be perfect for your balcony," Camilla said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation, as she always did. "You've already brought half the plants in this house, Camilla," Olivia joked, laughing as she closed the door. Camilla placed the pot on the floor and looked around with satisfaction. "Well, now it feels like a home. But tell me, how was your meeting with the support group yesterday?" Olivia sat down on the couch, cradling her son lovingly. "It was amazing, Camilla. I never imagined my story could impact other women. Some even came up to thank me for sharing everything. They said it made them feel stronger." Camilla smiled, her eyes shining with pride. "Of course they did. Look at what you've built, Olivia. You took everything that man tried to destroy and turned it into something powerful. That's real strength." As they talked, the camera pulled back, revealing the sunlit balcony, filled with flowers Camilla had brought over the months. The house was alive, pulsing with the energy of a fresh start. Across town, in a small rented apartment, James stared at the ceiling. The half-empty whiskey bottle on the bedside table was the only remnant of his former life of luxury. He was alone, and the silence was suffocating. Luna had left weeks ago, taking what little money he had left. The phone rang, but he didn't bother to answer. It wasn't Olivia. He knew it never would be. His thoughts were stuck on the moment he saw the divorce papers, on her bitter laugh as she handed him what she called the price of betrayal. "I had everything," he muttered to himself, his voice echoing in the emptiness of the apartment, "and I threw it all away for nothing." James stood up, walking to the window. Outside, the world carried on, indifferent to his pain. He was no longer the powerful man he believed himself to be. Now he was just a shadow, consumed by the choices that had led him to ruin. Meanwhile, back at Olivia's house, she stood on the balcony holding her son, pointing to the sky. "Look, my love, there's the rainbow. They say it appears after the storm." Camilla watched the scene in silence, her eyes glistening with tears. "You deserve all the happiness in the world, Olivia," she finally said. Olivia turned to Camilla, smiling. "I don't know what the future holds, but I know I don't have to be afraid anymore. I have everything that matters right here." The baby laughed, reaching his little hands toward the rainbow in the sky as Olivia held him securely. And in that moment, it became clear. Olivia's victory wasn't just in what she had rebuilt, but in the strength she had discovered within herself. She had been reborn, stronger than she ever thought possible. Don't miss more inspiring stories like this. Subscribe to the channel now and hit the notification bell to follow every twist and triumph. We're waiting for you.